Hello, my name is Marshall, the Dungeon Master for our Kingmaker adventure. Before we get to the adventure, I just wanted to say a quick thank you. To you. Did you know, statistically, it is 100% easier to not do something than it is to do something? So, thanks for doing a thing. When I started this project, I started it with a mind to show how easy it can be to find a group of strangers, which is what we were prior to this game, and just have fun with like-minded people over the internet, even in the state that the world is in circa 2021. And along the way, learn more about video editing and the like. So, without any further delay, onto the video. Excellent. Without any further delay, before we get actually into it, let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. That seems like a smart idea, starting with whoever is directly at the top of the Discord. Spencer.
Hello everyone, my name is Spencer. I'm playing Grom. He's a gigantic orc who is a champion and is kind of forceful in violence and anger and looks to find a peaceful solution to everything. It's a big teddy bear.
Excellent. Directly under him, Brian, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Brian. I'll be playing Izumi, a human sorcerer, a human oracle, a very small human oracle. And he's here to try to protect everyone and not let them die. Hopefully.
Excellent. Down underneath him, Lorkmere.
Yep. Lorkmere. I'll be playing Zakar Six Fingers, or to anyone who's not a cat folk, just Six Fingers or Six. And he is a polymath bard.
Excellent. Finally, a bard in the party. After years. Peace in our time. Directly under him, Tamik. Tamik?
Tamik. I'm Tamik, and I'm playing an ancient elf named Gendrick, who is a summoner, has a gold dragon companion.
Excellent.
I'll hopefully be king by the end of this.
We shall see. This is going to turn to some Game of Thrones shit by the end. I just forgot. Someone's going to sit on the throne and Zakar's going to come behind them and slit their throat.
Grom's gonna sit on the throne and break it.
Yeah. None of you can have it. And I'm assuming since he's busy, he won't catch up with us, but Valher's also with us. I will introduce myself. My name is Marshall. I am the Dungeon Master, I guess. I'm going to try and murder you all in so many terrible, awful ways that you'll soon grow to resent and hate me. And that is what I feed off of. It powers me these days. But hopefully in the meantime, I'll also weave you all a wonderful story about kings and whatnot. And for you guys as well as, I guess, anyone watching back, I'm recording this as a kind of a proof of concept thing to see what I can do with all the resources I have at my disposal to kind of make something nice looking for posterity's sake and the like. But I digress. Without any further delay, let us actually dive into playing, for the first time together, Pathfinder. Kingmaker. Our story begins in the world of Cinder. A world in the swing of a new age. One much akin to a Renaissance period. Well over 500 years ago, this world was plunged into a seemingly eternal twilight after the fabled Dawn War that left scars on both mortals and gods alike. In the recent century, however, light returned to the land, and with it, hope. A chance to rise from the ashes and start anew. And with this spark came new, never-before-seen marvels of science. Black powder firearms, airships, mechanical men, locomotive trains faster than any horse. But that's an aside. Truly, a new age has dawned, for better and worse. Our story, however, takes us not to the harsh lands of Northgard and Theros across the Northern Ocean, nor to the exotic lands of the East. Our story begins in what is considered a heartland, a melting pot of many different peoples and cultures. Tamira. To its northwestern coast, within what is known as the Dale Lands, a few months' journey south to a small kingdom capital in the nation of Brevoy. Restov. Hang on, let me look at Sirenscape in just a moment. Something raucous and loud. Festive. We set the scene on a warmly lit grand hall of an opulent mansion. Whether you were invited personally or simply answered the call for heroes when needed, all of you now find yourself hosted by none other than the High Sore Lord of Restov herself and daughter of the late Jamandi Aldori, Valerie Aldori. But to what end has yet to have been addressed? For now, all of you find yourselves in this fine hall, fitted for dining, vaulted ceilings with shining chandeliers, with 24 other people, all bearing the looks of adventurers such as yourselves, all set at several gathered tables, mingling amidst drink, warm low light, the smoky torches, and the sounds of decent bards on the far side of the room on a stage, playing. As you can see, Jamandi sitting at a kind of a forward table off to the side of the bards, with a couple, looks like advisors and the like, just talking while everyone else below them mingles. We're going to go around the room and start describing our characters in proper. I'm going to pick on, I guess, a similar order as before. Spencer. Seated, I'm imagining, in a far side table with as much food as you care to have. Would you care to describe the orc in the room?
So Grom, he's a big boy. Even for orcs, he stands a good 8 to 10 inches above your standard orc, weighing well over 300 pounds. He always seems to have a mug of ale, which is comically small in his oversized hands. Drinking, you can see some chainmail underneath his clothes. Other than that, he just has a shield and a whip and a small backpack by his side. He tends to keep to himself, not accustomed to these social gatherings where there's not violence or death ensuing. Just sits quietly, watching and observing the world around him.
Excellent. Looking about the table, there are fixtures aplenty: roast board, drink, meat, ale, and for something that you're not quite used to, fine company. There are a number of people here, many of them all weird in their own ways, as all adventurers kind of tend to be. Each their own special snowflake. Each of them looks like, half of them look like they have some sort of tragic backstory. You can see across the way, there's literally a dark brooding ranger sitting in the corner alone. And it kind of almost elicits a chuckle. It's just like, man, this really is just kind of crowd. But someone that Grom may have been delighted to make the acquaintance of is a human gentleman wearing this. It looks like it's been worn out, scratched, dinged, broken in a few places. This bronze breastplate, slick back hair, very chiseled features. His hands have both the look of a warrior and someone who's both worked the land, but he is a delight of a drinking companion, always with a quick joke, quick wit. He's been keeping you company for the past few hours as the feast has kind of led on. And I'll show you a picture of him. I would roleplay him, but he's too drunk. Moving down the line. Izumi, would you care to describe the air-headed human in the room?
Well, Izumi, he would probably be sitting at the table, but not really touching the food. His eyes would be kind of lost in the people that are around. He has a plate, a silver plate in front of him with some strange designs on top of it, and he keeps looking at it and keeps looking at people. But the strangest thing is that he's probably one of the stranger people in this room. Just by staying there, it looks like he's underwater. His clothes and his hair just keep fluttering about and just don't keep still at all, as if gravity had no control over them. When he probably takes a look at every single person in the room once, and when he looks at you, you can see that his eyes are yellow, and they are not only yellow, they shine a little bit, like a very weak starlight in the sky. His hair is completely white, eyebrows, clothes, everything is completely white, completely pale, except for his yellow eyes.
And you're definitely not sure if it's Trick of Life for sure, because there is an open glass dome of like a skylight in the grand hall that does let some of the natural starlight and moonlight outside. But it always seems to like has this kind of like glow cast over him wherever he is in this room that just kind of makes him look a little distant and spooky.
Yeah, and he also very opposite from Grom. He is like 5'5" and weighs about 110. That's as much as you can give him on weight. He is a very small human for a male.
Definition of a strong breeze could blow him over. Excellent. You, Izumi, have been noticing. There has been an eye on you, Izumi. Maybe like not too focused on it, but there has been a woman on the other side of the room of you who has been watching you. Let me look up her description. Aha. A lithe young woman in stark white hair that stares almost provocatively at you, as if silently daring you to advance towards her. Fingernails are overlong and sharpened. She carries a wooden staff with strange trinkets tied to it. And close by, you can see this small white fox kind of tucked into her cloak. But as it pulls its tails along its side, you see it doesn't have one tail. It has 9. And these red markings around its red pupilless eyes. It definitely looks otherworldly. You see this woman in the room.
Yeah, I probably looked at her, but I probably looked back and looked away from her, completely not understanding that she's looking at me.
The moment you made eye contact, you would have gotten that curling finger of come hither.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I would have looked at that, and I would have looked to you looking around. It completely did miss.
lmao. That brings us down the line to the golden gleaming elf in the room. If Gandra could be so kind to describe his character.
He's an elf sitting in a breastplate emblazoned with a long sword on his chest. He has a long sword at his side, and oddly enough, he's sitting next to a medium-sized gold dragon and just merrily chatting with the dragon and observing the room.
Excellent. You have recently been chatted up by there's kind of a passing conversation. Doesn't really talk to you, more like she's standing in your immediate presence, and you kind of look at each other and kind of this kind of hey, how's it going? Like she seems like someone who definitely carries herself with confidence and charisma, but generally isn't used to talking to people. You see, this woman. She holds herself like a seasoned professional swordsman, however. But she appears to be like just waiting for Valerie to finish whatever it is she's talking about to approach and speak with her.
All right. Well, the gold dragon he's communicating with her as well.
She seems a bit taken aback at this. Like, she doesn't at first speak, but she's just like leaning away from the large golden drake before her. Not quite sure what to make of it. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, he is only medium-sized.
But still, like, for a normal person, like, that's as big as dragon. They've probably seen it up close without it trying to murder them.
Fair enough.
That'll bring us to our catfolk bard in the room.
So, Zakar is wearing, well, I suppose I should start. He's about 5'7", very lithe build. Probably weighs significantly less than your average, human of that height. He's got cloth wraps around his forearms and around sort of the knees down to the very tops of his feet, with some very baggy pants, oversized kind of layers of shawls, and this big baggy hood with bells, little golden bells lining it, and he's got a large wooden lute strapped to his back, and usually he's got a little black cat contrasting his own white fur. This black cat with wings and pale blue eyes standing on his shoulder, and the two of them sometimes carry on conversation in a foreign tongue as Zakar is quite plainly sort of glowering at the more than likely, from his perspective, inadequate bards in the room.
Their flute playing could definitely use some work. It's a little rough in places. Oh, by the way, this is the picture of the dear sword lord. But as the night continues, does anyone have anything that they want to do? Any scene that they want to run while they're all here gathered at a feast hall? Anyone you want to talk to?
I'll go to the orc and immediately greet him, because it's so abnormal to see an orc in the light of day.
Excellent. So you stand up, stride across the feast hall, and approach the orc seated at the table with, very deep in his cups, this rough-looking human. He says, "Hey, we have a new companion. Would you look at that?" Oh.
Grom lifts his head. Hello there.
Hello. You don't see many orcs around. How are you? Are you a good soul?
Wow. You see the human starts laughing. Yeah, good soul. What is that supposed to mean?
Well, I guess it's all a matter of perspective, really. I mean, I've done some things I ain't proud of, but I'm trying to do what I can to, be better.
That's all anyone could ever ask. I felt it necessary to ask because most orcs are out to kill, loot, and rape. So I couldn't help myself. I had to inquire.
Well, I'm not one to lie, but I've lived that life, and I'll tell you, it's good fun and all, but it's not a sustainable way of living. There are better, more beautiful things in the world that need appreciation.
Yes. Gendrick, not so happy about what he heard about his past that he kind of shuffles back to the gold dragon.
Before you have a
Sitting
chance
off.
to shuffle away, the human will actually stand up, not like he's across the table from you. He'll stand up on the chair over the table. He'll walk across it and come down to like drop down in front of you with a mug of ale in his hands, and it just spills everywhere. He catches some of it, but he's like, oh shit, looks at you, says, and what about you? He kind of gets right up in your face. You can smell his terrible breath. You good person.
Yes. Do you think I would be traveling with a gold dragon if I was a bad person?
He looks at you, cocks an eyebrow across the room with the gold dragon, who's like giving him like puppy dog eyes. I'm gonna make
Seeing
a
this happen,
perception check for Hilarious. Big dumb himbo.
as this is happening, Grum's gonna kind of follow the human over, not walking on the table because he'd probably break it. But he's gonna kind of come over and put his hand on the human's shoulder, like, "Easy now."
He'll like he'll brush your arm off, and he'll like cock an eyebrow at this elf. Says, you kind of like snort, looking. He's like equal height with you, but he's like kind of looking up, and he says, "I like you. Come drink with us." He wraps an arm around your shoulder and immediately starts shoving you down into the bench. Says, "My name's Valeris, and this here's my friend Grom."
I am Megandric Telethel. I guess I could sit for a drink, but I will call
Another round for
Revru.
me and my friends.
Maybe you should slow down a little bit. Have a couple more.
We're feasting. Feast while we're alive, because tomorrow we might be dead. He says with a grin.
If you get too drunk, you won't remember the feast.
That's fine. Feasts aren't meant for remembering. They're meant for enjoying. We cut away from that to Zakar. What is Zakar up to?
Zakar is observing this interaction and the fact that the gold dragon seems to be by itself.
It is.
And he would walk up to the gold dragon and introduce himself as Six Fingers.
It turns to acknowledge you. What language do you address it in?
Common.
It tilts its head in an intonation towards you, like it's resting kind of off to the side, not like directly in the walking paths, just kind of near the pillars on the right and left hand sides of the room. It gives you a nod, but it gives you an intonation that it doesn't fully grasp the language that you're addressing it in.
Scar will kind of he crosses his forearms and huffs. Just great. And then starts having this conversation with this cat on his shoulder, the two of them speaking in catfolk, their normal tongue, arguing back and forth with Zakar pointing very energetically at the dragon and then pointing over at Gendrick while the two of them argue.
You look, as you're like looking between the two of them, you're not sure exactly what it is, but as they look back at you and they also look in the direction of Gendrick, there's a strange, almost mirrored way in the way that their bodies move, in the way that they seem to hold themselves. You can see as Gendrick is like slouched down at their table, like not enjoying himself, his head kind of like down a little bit, looking up towards everyone. You can see they have their kind of like head also kind of leaned down, also looking a little displeased. There's some sort of connection between the two of them that goes deeper than just companionship. But other than that, you're not too sure. They just give you a nod and look back out across the festivities, just like, I have no idea what you're saying to them.
Zakar puts his hands on his hips and walks over towards that little gathering with Grom and Gendrick.
Meanwhile, what is Izumi up to? You see the cat folk has now started to cross the room, and you notice in the fashion that they're walking, they're on the other side of the room and they're walking to the front. That black cat is going to cross your path if they keep walking the way they're walking, and you're like, no, I knew it, bad luck.
I look at the thing and I say, oh god, this is really a unlucky night. In a very downtrodden tone. I put my disc inside of my robes and I get up and I start walking towards the same table in order to not let the cat cross my path.
Ooh, excellent. You immediately like stand up in your chair, like time to move. You get up to move away, and you didn't notice when you lost track of it, but that winged cat is there directly in front of you, no more than 5 feet away, sitting on the table, like seated nice with its paws directly in front of it, but it's like looking up at you with this Cheshire glint in its eyes as its tail flicks back and forth.
Hi. I start walking around just not to cross the path.
You like go to move and you see like its body like leans in that direction. You like catch yourself kind of stopping as it's like following your every movement. And you notice it's starting to do that cat thing where it's starting to shift back and forth on both of its legs.
I look at the cat folk, see if the cat folk still has the cat with him.
Zakar, you make your way to the table. You're like just about to like interrupt the conversation and realize, where did your cat go?
He'll look around for it.
I'm gonna make the cat leaps through the air to Izumi, claws extended. Just Izumi, you're like, no! The slow motion stop just in time as you hear like as something snatches the cat by the scruff of the neck. As you can see, the ranger that was on the other side of the room has strolled up and, with a quick reflex, caught the cat before it attacks Izumi. She's now holding it by the scruff, just kind of looking at it in the eyes. Troublesome. You see this scruffy woman standing before you. She looks like she just walked out of a forest, as most rangers do. She smells not too pleasant. She has a couple like gold bands wrapped around her arm, but her clothes are ripped and torn in places. She has a long bow with her person. And as she looks across the room, makes eye contact with you, Zakar, she holds up your cat.
He will say something in catfolk, which I don't know if anyone would actually understand what he says in this room, but it's kind of that, it's got this tone of toot sweet, and it will try to kind of get out of her grasp and fly over to him.
Let's see how they do. They struggle futilely, wiggling in all directions, but she has a pretty firm grasp on your cat. She's looking at you like, just like with this deadpan expression, like, come and get your cat.
He will walk over to her and extend his arm so that she can set the cat.
She plops the cat in your grasp and says, you should be a little bit more careful about letting that thing run around. She looks at Izumi and says, poor thing could have killed the guy.
Tonight, I'm not lucky tonight. The stars had so.
She is special. She has a mind of her own.
Clearly. She just gives you a glare. Clearly not a people person. She'll look at Izumi. Mixed look of pity and just annoyance. Go back to her dark, brooding corner.
And he'll say something to the cat in this tone of you can't understand what he says, but it's definitely scolding.
It looks at you like with a sorry not sorry face. Like it knows what it did. But you eventually return back to your due direction, back to the table with the others. Azumi, as you're leaving, you see the cat gives you like it just looks at you and licks its jowls as it's like being hauled away by the cat folk.
Why cats hate me? I don't understand. And then I just start heading towards the same table.
Zakar, you approach the table with Grom and the loud human.
He walks up kind of quietly and stands behind Gendrick and is just like hand on his chin, basically studying. Like this glance of studying him and looking ever so often looking back at the gold dragon to kind of see, that connection between the two of them in action.
Gendrick, you are empathically informed that there is someone standing directly behind you.
I do want to note that you do notice there's a symbol on both me and the dragon.
Oh yeah, what does that symbol look like?
It was posted in chat.
Ooh, Celtic.
You notice that the identical symbol, and it's just shining above the armor. So it's not on us, but it's like there.
So it's like spectral, kind of.
It's more of like shining symbol that kind of denotes that we're
It almost looks
together.
like a brand on the surface of the armor, but as you inspect it closer, it's not on the armor. It's more like a trace of energy that is permanently just inscribed on the surface of it. It's a bit of a yes and no.
Because if there's a visible mark, the car will actually reach out and kind of gently poke it while looking at the dragon to see if it does anything when he pokes the symbol.
You see it narrows its eyes. As Gendrick, you're once more informed, like, Gendrick, you're being poked. And we get that scene of like you at him, looking at the dragon. You look back at the dragon and look back to Gendrick, and he's just looking at you.
I turn around and like, can I help you?
I couldn't help but notice the very special connection you have with that dragon over there.
Yes, he's with me. Is he bothering you?
No, I am just very curious. I noticed the two of you have a habit of moving in unison.
We are bonded.
Interesting. And he'll exchange a few words with the cat on his shoulders. Yes, bonded like us, perhaps, but quite a bit stronger. Where did you get it?
He found me.
I see. I've heard stories about you occasionally. Kind of hard to miss going around with a gold dragon. Not much subtlety.
We never move with subtlety. We are very direct and open.
He kind of like leans to the side to look past you at the orc and the drunk human. Obviously.
Grom's gonna shuffle over on the bench, creaking under his weight. Oh, come on, join us already then. Have a drink.
You hear a voice call across the table as you say that woman's voice, a bit more on the sophisticated side, but definitely trying to bring an air of kind of casualty. Says, "Is there room for one more?" As you see a well-dressed woman with a rapier at her hip, dark doublet, popped collar, and kind of gold accents, holding a martini, oddly enough.
It's the
As I seem to be a late arrival, most of the other chairs are either taken or occupied by uninteresting dullards.
Anyone who's got taste enough to have a fancy drink like that's good by me.
Certainly, you can join us.
Charmed, she says. As she sits down, she says, "My name's Cynthia Courtier."
It's a pleasure to meet you, Cynthia. I'm Grom.
She tilts her head up, gives a polite bow, and says, "A pleasure to make the acquaintance of such a kind orc such as yourself. I must say, it's quite a interesting fare to have a conversation with an orc, one that doesn't involve an axe or more other physical
That's
diplomacy."
what I was saying.
I've lived an interesting life to make me this way. Can't say it was always like uh-oh.
Yes, that's one thing I can see for you for certain, Mr. Grum. Definitely interesting. I'd love to hear more of this story. You can see
Well,
Valero's
it all
like,
began.
Valero's like right beside you, Grum, kind of gives you like the, like, waggles his eyebrows and gives you a nudge with his elbow, like, hey. But just as you're about to launch into that long story, the woman standing at the kind of the front of the room next to the band will kind of signal them for to the stop and begin clinking her glass to get the room's attention. The band will peter out. Where's that music? The crowd will die down a little bit as the woman, the sword lord, the high sword lord, takes the stage and gets the attention of the over half dozen or so people in the room. She says, "Salutations, one and all, brave adventurers. I am Valerie Aldori, proud sword lord of Restov. I can only assume you're all wondering why it is you've been called here. Well, allow me to explain." She begins kind of taking a slow pace with her arms behind her back as she walks the stage. But you can see this woman, though she seems young, she seems maybe only into her early 20s. There's this presence about her, like someone who, despite her age, has earned her position as pretty much the de facto leader of Restov. She says, "Some miles southwest of this very city lies a vast and thus far unclaimed and untapped wealth of wilderness, known to most as the Stolen Lands. For years, many eyes have been on these lands, and still many have attempted to contend with the monsters, rampant banditry, or worse, and all thus far have failed. That is why you have been gathered here today. It is my vision to see these lands civilized once and for all. And under the name of the Aldori, of the Sword Lords, and the kingdoms of Brevoy, and the power vested in me by all three, I would see this done. But I require strong souls for such an impossible task. Are there any questions thus far?" She holds it out. There'll be a pause where it looks like at first nobody's going to say anything. Until the woman who just introduced herself at her table and says, she'll perk up, stand up really, and say, "My question, if you'll forgive my intrusion, Lady Aldori, is what of the other kingdoms ordering these stolen lands, as they are at the heart of all four of them? Would they not see this as some sort of ploy of annexation to get closer to their territory? She kind of bows her head at this, not expecting such a pointed question, but nods and says, yes, while it is true that these lands have been disputed by the lands of Pitax and the like, it is thus far unclaimed by anyone. They hold no legitimate claim over these lands. And I'm of a mind and of the resources to see it given over to the better of the evils. She gives with a smile. You can see some people chuckle at that, as there is Restov does have a bit of a reputation for being not evil. They don't fuck around. If you fuck with the Sword Lords, you get fucked over. But she continues nonetheless. It says, I would see the groups of you, those of able body and willing, broken into groups and sent into these lands to tackle the matters that have thus far prevented any sort of efforts to colonize them. Mainly the rampant banditry problem. But also slews of monsters and other matters that have come to our attention lately. Valero will speak up and say, other matters? You mean something we can't just swing our swords at? See, the Sword Lord chuckles and says, no. Something a bit more supernatural, but that can be briefed another time. For now, I would insist that you revel, enjoy your evenings. Come the morning, we'll have more time to speak on this matter. For now, enjoy the hospitality that the Sword Lords have to offer. The music, as she kind of signals over to the bards with a little bit of hesitance, will start back up again. As they play the same song that they were playing earlier.
As the speech stops, Zakar will look at the warrior and go, ooh, imagine that. Something you can't just kill with your sword.
Yeah, those require thinking. I'm not a fan of thinking. But he looks around at you guys. Hopefully that's what I'll have you guys for, right? You all seem like a very smart and educated bunch.
Grom looks at the others, kind
They
of
hire him.
shrinks a little in his seat.
He does say that with like a nudge to
looking
Grom, like he is poking fun at you.
Yeah, I'm looking around looking for the witch of earlier because I'd rather deal with her than with the people around the table.
Give me a perception check. The first roll of the game. For some reason,
Sounds about right.
I don't have a chat. What'd you roll?
8.
You're looking around for... You actually see that she's disappeared from the festivities. She's the only person who's disappeared from the festivities. Huh.
Yeah.
But a lot of you, as you guys are enjoying your festivities, those of you are grouped up together, you'll see Cynthia will look across the room, look at her drink, finish it. Says, excuse me, I have a bit of other business to attend to, but it was a pleasure making your acquaintance. We'll talk more tomorrow. She smiles, gets up and leaves.
Yeah, when I don't find her, I look down and I murmur to myself, today is an unlucky night.
Poor guy. Anything you guys want to do as you continue your evening, as you guys are talking? Conversation to be had?
Nothing particular, just enjoying the drink and taking in people around.
The swashbuckler that you saw before had a moment after the speech to speak with Jamandi, Valerie. I just choose two similar names, didn't I? After that, she'll walk to your guys' table without even asking, just sit down across from Valero with a heavy sigh. And Valero will lean in a language I don't think most of you understand unless you speak Taldane, which is a specific kind of common that humans speak down south. They begin having a conversation, just kind of quietly to themselves for a moment, and then the swashbuckler will grab a drink and slam the whole thing. She hasn't even looked up from the table at any of you all. She's just heavy sigh.
You all right? Are you all right?
No, I came here to ask Valerie O'Dory herself to train me, and here I am being rejected at first try. It's just, I was hoping for at least a little consideration.
Did she say why she rejected you?
Who fucking knows? She says, because she just throws her arms up in the air, grabs another drink off a passing, without even looking, grabs a drink off a passing barmaid's, platter, just starts slamming that one too.
Well, she's Zakar gestures, just kind of with one hand, absent-mindedly about the room. A very busy woman.
She looks away, I guess. Gets back into a drink.
Don't get too down about it. Just because she ain't taking it out doesn't mean she won't take you later on. Just, you gotta keep trying, you know?
She'll look at you and says, you know what? You're right, large orc fellow. She says with a smile. That is very, very smart thinking. Valero will lean in and says, you'll have to forgive my friend here. Jirella's not much of a people person despite her obvious charms. She looks over and says, fuck you, Valero. Says, love you too, Jirella. He swigs a drink as well. She takes a few minutes to finish the drink, says, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to bed. Says, you all enjoy your night. It was nice meeting you. She turns, she leaves.
Good night. And the dragon kind of roars in a sounds like good night.
She kind of uneasily sways as she saunters across the room. She has high-heeled leather boots that clack confidently across the floor as she leaves, but she just raises her tankard as she without looking back, just as a passing wave, and finishes as she walks away.
If it's just so it's said that every once in a while Gendrick will pour some of his ale down the dragon's throat so he can drink too.
Technically, if one of you gets drunk, you both get drunk, so.
Oh, or both of them can drink, so they can get drunk twice as fast.
Exactly.
Now that's efficiency.
Gendrick, make a fortitude saving throw. If you would be so kind. I want to see how fucked up this elf gets.
I mean, there's double fisting. I've never heard of.
Oh wait, what am I supposed to roll?
Mouthing
Give me a fortitude saving throw. And tell me what you roll for, because for some reason Roll20 doesn't want to show me the chat.
You have to
12?
reload Roll20 for it to roll.
Rolled a 12.
Gedrick definitely loosens up by the end of the night. Loosens up right into a bout of nausea.
Okay.
You're now sickened.
Stop. I stopped drinking.
Seeing Gendrick getting sick, Grom is going to go and get some water and bring it over. You should drink ice. It's water. You need to rehydrate.
All right. Thanks.
Valero, at this point, is face down in a apple pie, out cold.
Oh boy.
Luckily, his head's turned, so he's not breathing it in.
I'll be
Like-
back in a little bit. I'm gonna pick him up and carry him off to one of the rooms and kind of tuck him into bed.
You pick up Valero. As looking around the rest of the night, the most of the other patrons have started to go to bed as it's getting particularly late. The feasting's died down. The band at this point has started to peter out as they've grown tired.
As he picks him up, Zakar will take the pie and
Just-
sit down in his seat and prop his legs up on the table, like crossing them at the ankles, and lean back and
Just start.
look around at anyone else who's standing there and go, "What? Better do not let it go to waste."
Excellent. As you're like indulging, like occasionally your cat will like on your shoulder, like lean down and claw swipe a chunk of apple pie and start eating it. As you indulge. Anyone else doing anything particularly for their evening before they head to bed? As rooms are provided by the Sword Lords, a whole wing, basically, for a group of you guys has been provided.
Probably nothing else for Zakar.
But if you guys are cool, we can transition to the end of the night. Towards the end of the night, however, as a bit of like a rainstorm has started to roll, and you can see like petals of water starting to hit the glass above your heads at the dome, and the distance cracks of thunder and lightning. Towards the end of the night, it really starts to pick up, and you can start to hear the howling of wind outside. But just as everyone's about to peter out, the Sword Lord herself is about to retire for the evening, and the torches are starting to gutter down low. The thunder happens as there's a boom as the massive doors on the far side of the room are just thrown open. You can see some guards immediately like turn, grab their pikes just in response, but you can see standing in the rain and the just pelted with mud and wet. See a dark, almost cast in gloom looking human, who clearly does not look from around here. As close as I can describe them, since I see that they're still busy, a Viking. Tattered cloak, long sword, smell of sea and blood and sweat, snow and cold. Just strides into the room, looks around, exhausted looking. And behind them, or something like wrapped up in their arms, seemingly asleep. A guard will approach, and there's a conversation before they are not hostilely, just kind of escorted off the side. They speak to the Sword Lord. Or after that, the rest of you retire to your quite well put rooms. The bed that Garam is given is definitely like his knees, like his legs past his knees will like hang off the bed, but you know, it's better than sleeping on the ground.
He slept in worse.
I imagine so.
Just imagine like this little blanket that he's holding up that covers like a quarter of his chest.
Absolutely. It's like, well, this is fine. All of you retire to bed that night. Stomachs full of mead and food, and heads full of ideas of what tomorrow will bring. Izumi, I'd like you to make a perception check with a -4 penalty because this happens by the time you fall asleep.
15 with a -4.
At first you stir only a little bit uncomfortably as you feel some sort of weight pressing down upon you. As you blink your eyes open in the low cast moonlight, you can see straddling your form as you're laying on your back on your bed, you see that strange Wiccan woman on top of you, looking down at you with a gleam of something on her face that could only bode not well.
Lust.
Which one?
The witch.
Oh, okay.
As soon as you try
I
to
look at-
move, she lowers herself. Her nose is like right against yours and puts her hand over your mouth and puts a finger to her lips with a smile.
No, I was gonna say I was just gonna say, did you lose your way to your room? It's if you want to, it's okay.
Okay, she covers your mouth, puts a finger to her lips, and she says a smile and says, "Why?" She looks over her shoulder to the door, where you begin to start to hear sounds outside the room. Change in music again. And that's where those of you who are still asleep have yet to hear it. It almost sounds in the very distance like screaming, shouting, swords clashing, shouts, "Fire! Fire!" And that's when, on the room next to yours, first you hear boot falls, sounds of voices coming down the hallway outside your room. And then from one of the nearby doors, there's a sound of sudden splintering of wood as the room next to yours is apparently the door attacked. As you hear more voices and shouting outside, a lot of you, everyone else currently in this wing, which is everyone else present, suddenly shoots awake at that sudden violent sound as Grom, Izumi, in a moment, and whatever room is between them is suddenly assaulted and the doors are being broken into. But will our intrepid heroes survive the night to see the morning? Or will their journey end before it even begins? That is a tale for another time. Until then,